West Virginia. You know, although West Virginia, he was part of the XFL. And kind of short story about Kenny Robertson, if you didn't know, he left, obviously, the West Virginia because of academic problems. He kind of had a fraud thing, but he went pro to help his mom, who was battling, I believe, cancer. So it was good he went to XFL, thrived in there, had 2 interceptions, was second in the XFL for interceptions. A round 5 pick, 152, Kenny Robertson out of West Virginia. Your thoughts?
Well, Kenny Robertson, I mean, he proved himself in the XFL. I mean, he shut down top receivers in that league. So, you know, he is definitely a great player in his own right. And I think he can definitely compete with Boston and Chin for snaps on the field. But yeah, that kind of caliber player who dominated on defense in the XFL, definitely a worthy addition to the Panthers roster. Hopefully, he can carry that over on the NFL Sundays too.
Absolutely. You know, I'm really excited about Kenny Robertson. One, he has the build, he has the mindset of already being a pro. I mean, let's be honest. He's the only pro in this draft. I mean, that's a true statement. He's the only pro that's had the chance to go up against pro athletes in the XFL, which XFL obviously went into the a bankrupt situation, but Kenny Robertson played at least half of the season, went pro, and he has a leverage over and the upward leverage over any prospect in this draft because he went up against the best in the world. So that's another potential guy that can start over, like you mentioned, a Troy Pride, because he can play safety or strong safety, inside safety, but he can also play cornerback. So you never know. That's the good thing about Chin and Robertson. You can mix and match these guys to fit where you need them to fix. And I'm extremely excited what the Snow defensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers are going to do with these guys because he has a lot now. Looking before the draft, like, oh Lord, we're going to go over potentially 4 or 5 wins again for the Carolina Panthers. Our offense, we thought that they could score some points. Our wide receiver is potentially the best in the complete depth chart. Let me get that out? A depth chart complete package for the Carolina Panthers wide receivers. Might possibly be the best in the NFL with Robertson, with DJ Moore, with Curtis Samuel if he's not traded, which I don't think we are, because I think if we can, if he can stay on the field and he can stay healthy, he's a huge asset to the Carolina Panthers for the slot and for the deep threat for Teddy Bridgewater. So we're going to see what that does. Moving forward, the first man to play with either Snow, to play with either Brady or obviously the head coach in Matt Rule out of Baylor. Here's Roy, defensive line, round 6, pick 184.
I think that makes sense because, you know, there's familiarity there with Rule in the system. So I don't know that much about Brady on Roy, but I'm sure Matt Rule definitely sees a lot of potential in that guy since he did play under Matt Rule. That's a depth signing. I don't think he will be a starter, but, you know, those guys, they have the backups, they have to come in and, you know, relieve the starters every once in a while. We've seen them perform well in the past. I mean, does F.A. Obata ring any bells? I mean, that guy can shine, and Matt Rule, from what I heard, really likes him too. So maybe Brady on Roy can be that F.A. Obata type player that doesn't start but can get the job done when called upon.
I just know he is a big human being. He's 326 pounds, like 6'5", 6'4", something like that. And he's a big body. It's always nice to have a big body to be able just to have depth behind. You know, obviously, I don't think he's going to be like you said, a day one starter. But you don't need your first pick in the 6th round to be that. You just need them to play positive and a good quality minutes to kind of take some pressure off the starters. We understand Derek Brown, Matos can be a starter. Burns is going to be a stud in the NFL, and KK, if he can stay healthy, he's already a stud. So you kind of kind of piggyback off them, have them 3 downs, and then come in, whatever it is. I think it's a great quality depth piece, like you just mentioned. And another kind of sleeper out of Florida International, another cornerback. Again, the Panthers went 7 for 7 on the defensive side. Stanley Thomas Oliver III, round 7, pick number 221.
That's going to be a developmental project for the Carolina Panthers. He obviously has potential, but he did follow the 7th round for a reason. So there's obviously some improvements that need to be had there. But I think he could definitely be someone who can contribute for the Carolina Panthers this year, maybe as a backup to whoever's starting in our secondary on week 1. So I like that pick. I think it will pay off for the Carolina Panthers. But we'll just see like if he does make the roster or if he has to be on the practice squad for a little while.
Well, practice fine is perfectly fine, or like I said, you can use him in a special teams role to kind of get his feet wet in the NFL. The good thing, what I love about this pick is he's a converted wideout, wide receiver. He's 6 foot, 192 pounds, has the size to play cornerback in this league. He made a huge impact in the Conference USA. I'm reading here from rotoworld.com about Stanley Thomas Oliver. So look, a good quality, like you mentioned before, depth for the Carolina Panthers by way of either the practice squad or special teams. He can catch. So that means he can potentially be on a kick return or an onside kick return team for the Carolina Panthers. So it's going to be interesting to see what these draft picks do. Once again, the Carolina Panthers went all defense in the 2020 NFL Draft. Round 1, pick number 7, Derek Brown out of Auburn. Round number 2, pick 38, Matos, defensive end for Penn State. Round 2, my favorite one of the entire draft, Jeremy Chin's safety out of Southern Illinois. Round 4, pick 113, Troy Pride, cornerback out of Notre Dame. Round 5, pick 152, Kenny Robertson out of the XFL and West Virginia. That is Kenny Robertson. Round 6, Fabian Roy, defensive line, Baylor. There's that Baylor kind of mashup that I thought the Carolina Panthers were going to probably go a little bit more than they did. But they got at least one, so we can take that away. And Stanley Thomas Oliver, they converted wideout out of Florida International. Round 7, pick 221, rounds up the entire draft for the Carolina Panthers. Now, the cool thing about what we saw, yes, they went 7 for 7 inside the draft. So you knew soon as the undrafted free agency hit, that we were going to line up and go get some big body offensive linemen. We're going to go potentially get some linebackers. We got a wide receiver that could potentially come in and start day 1 on the undrafted free. I don't even know how he got through the cracks. And Bayless, I just don't understand it. So when we come back from break, we are going to talk a little bit about who you think is going to kind of make a difference, make an impact for this Carolina Panthers. Again, we signed over 17 undrafted free agency. I think that is phenomenal. It gives these players an additional opportunity to play in the NFL. So we're going to take a quick little break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the undrafted free agency for the Carolina Panthers. You're tuned in to Panthers Talk right here on CRN Sports Podcast and the CRN Sports Network.
Looking for a life insurance company that specializes in what you actually need? Protection. Call Danny today with Symmetry Financial. Danny is certified in all 50 states, which means Symmetry Financial is not limited and has over 30 companies to choose from. Symmetry Financial has proved time and time again that their options and pricing is just better than the rest. Give Danny a call today at 828-994-1681 to see how Symmetry Financial can make life simple.
Unforgettables. Nice. This show is sponsored by Unforgettables. Unforgettables creates detailed hand-painted baseballs for every baseball fan. Check them out at unforgettables.com.
This is CRN, the Community Radio Network, the voice of the community, the voice of anything sports, and proud to be the voice of the Comets. Follow us at crnsports.org. Now let's get back to the broadcast coverage on CRN.
And welcome back to the Panthers Talk podcast right here on the CRN Sports Podcast platform and CRN Sports Network. Hope you're having a great night. Trey, Snide, and Brandon White on the call this evening. Again, we thank you for tuning in this evening. Talk a little bit everything Carolina Panthers. This is one of those pop-ups, kind of new podcasts for the CRN Network, so we thank you for being a part of it. We're going to have this all season long to kind of see what's going on in the Carolina Panthers world. We got to bring some Carolina Panthers to our network a little bit more. So there's all sorts of, there's over 17 undrafted free agents that the Carolina Panthers have picked up this offseason. Before we kind of dive deep into some of them, what is your thoughts about this undrafted free agent list for the Carolina Panthers this year?
Well, with undrafted free agents, normally most of those guys do not end up making the final roster, but every so often a few of them do, and sometimes a couple of them can even go on to even have great careers. There's definitely some potential with the group of guys we have right now, particularly the one that we both singled out is Omar Bayless of Arkansas State. He was an absolutely prolific wide receiver for that team, especially during his senior year. I believe he ran a slow. He was a little bit slow at the NFL Combine. That's definitely a concern. But if we can tap into that even a little bit of that explosiveness he had at Arkansas State, I think he can stick around with us for a while.
Yeah, 93 receptions, 1,600 yards. I mean, that should belong on a roster no matter who you are. There's been, obviously, the NFL Combine. There's a few guys that dropped in the draft because their NFL Combine was pretty terrible. They performed poorly at the NFL Combine. So a lot of those guys going to fall. I just don't understand with his prolific season at Arkansas State. Record in so many different categories for Arkansas State. Omar Bayless, the wide receiver. I was just surprised that he kind of leaked through the cracks a little bit. He is determined. He can potentially come in and be a really not a starter, but a good depth. We have 10 wide receivers on this group, so it's going to be hard to break into the starting role for, or at least the depth chart for the Carolina Panthers. But if anybody can do it right now, and looking at this list, Omar Bayless out of Arkansas State has a great, great chance. Another player that I really love, the running back out of Minnesota, Rodney Smith. What he does is allow Christian McCaffrey, obviously, our big-time running back, if you know who that is. Just signed a big-time free or a contract. Let me get the words out. A contract. So he's going to be around for a long time. So we need him to stay healthy. We need Christian McCaffrey to not have to worry about being on the goal line and trying to run up against 5 or 6 300-pound linemen, even though we've seen him do it. But he also held back just a little bit. So what Rodney Smith does is allow Christian McCaffrey to do his thing. You put in a Smith or maybe a Smith. I'm not even worried about the rest of the depth chart because I think Rodney Smith potentially could replace some of the guys that are on there now. So I like him. I love the Chris Orr signed linebacker out of Wisconsin, 13 and a half sacks this year. I mean, no, how is he still was not drafted with 13 and a half sacks, led Wisconsin for the sack leader. So some of these names are puzzling that they kind of fell through the leaks or through the cracks, but Rodney Smith, Chris Orr, and Omar Bayless has a great, great opportunity to break this list for the Carolina Panthers and move forward in their careers in the NFL.
Well, you know how scouts can be. Like, they're very nitpicky when it comes to an athlete. They're always looking for that perfect kind of athlete. But then, you have some out there who think that Lamar Jackson would be better suited as a wide receiver or a running back, or those who think Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray won't even make it in the NFL. So scouts, they're only right a majority of the time, not all the time. Yep. And who knows? Maybe one of these undrafted guys like Bayless or like they could emerge and be great players for a team. I mean, I believe Brandon Bowen, like on the offensive line. I mean, that might be something that pays off for him because we do need some offensive line help. So there's a numerous possibilities. You're not all those guys are going to make the roster, but we can only hope at least one or two of them do contribute later on down the line.
Oh, absolutely. Right now, if you're an offensive lineman or a tight end or really a linebacker, you're almost guaranteed a spot. I mean, let's be honest. We are very weak in a lot of those